In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to move around the court effectively and efficiently. I'll be sharing some key concepts with you, giving you some practical advice, and finishing with telling you what not to do that the pros do. Now, I need to start with the obvious. I'm not a young man anymore. I've got back issues, I've had both hips replaced, and one of which didn't work out too well. So the demonstrations that I'm going to show you are not going to be the most fluid, but the key concepts still hold true. No running. That's right, you might say to me, but Philip, I often run up to here, I often hit the ball, I turn around and then I have to run into the back corner and hit it back. And you're right, sometimes we have to do that. But I would suggest that 90% of good squash movement is not running. It's moving with side steps, it's lunging, it's making lots of adjustment steps. Now I'll be showing you a really good example in a minute of when you shouldn't be running, but I want you to have that in your mind. No running. So the next point to tell you is that this is not the tee. You might say, yes, but this is the tee. Look, I can see it. No, the tee is the place where you need to be able to reach the ball at any one point in the same amount of time. So for example, if I'm in the back of the court here, I'm happy to say that this is the tee. The ball goes back into the corner, I come back, I hit the ball, I'm back here. Because if the ball is hit hard, I need to be a bit further back into this corner because I'll have less time to get there. If the ball goes to the front, it's going to take a bit longer to get there. So in the amount of time it takes me to get to the front or the back, this is the right place. But if I've boasted the ball, for example, and my shot is up here and my opponent is up here, I need to be further forward, because if they play a drop, I need to get here, get back quickly. If they play it to the back, I've got a little bit more time to get there. So you need to recognize that the tee is not one simple place, it's fluid depending on where the ball is and where your opponent is. The next key concept that I want to talk to you about is anticipation. Now, I'll be making a full video about this in the future, but for this video, I just want you to recognize that when your opponent is at the front of the court, and generally at the back as well, watching them where they're going to hit the ball, what shot is this? It's a boast. Now, yes, it's possible to go like this and hit it down the wall or cross court. It's possible for them to deceive you, but most of the time, players are not looking to do that. So if you can, instead of focusing on the ball, which tells you nothing about where the ball is going, focus on the player, you'll have a lot more information. And that will then help you start to move in the right direction. Because moving fast is only useful if you're going in the right direction. So pay attention to your opponent's movement and swing. The first piece of practical advice that I want to give you is called the split step. The split step is a little jump just before your opponent hits the ball. You should be looking to land just as the ball is moving, just as it's been hit. It compresses the muscles and allows them to stretch very quickly. I want you to think of it as the bounce to pounce. Now, the actual movement itself is pretty easy. It's just that little jump, not too high. Doesn't make any difference how high you is, but not too low, of course. Shoulder width apart is about the area that I want you to be. I don't want you to be here, I don't want you to be here, and I don't want you to be here. Just here. Some people feel more comfortable wider. You have to experiment. But more importantly than the actual physical requirements of this jump is the timing. If you do it too early, you'll be on your heels and you would have lost the benefit of it. If you do it too late, the ball will be moving while you are still in the air and you won't be able to get going. That's why exercises like skipping and those kind of plyometrics, which I've talked about in the other videos, are so important for squash, because that first movement can be the difference between getting into a good position and being a fraction late. So you have to just consciously do the little jump just before your opponent is going to hit the ball, and do this during drills, do it during matches, Do it all of the time. Okay, so let's talk about the back corners. Now imagine that I'm starting here, got my split step. Well, the first thing that I want to do is I want to become comfortable at taking side steps. Side steps are so important for adjustment. So that's the first thing that you need to be thinking about. The number of side steps depends on where the ball is. If, of course, the ball is going here, then I'm only going to do a little side step. Little side step, boom. Maybe you're tall enough, maybe you can take one long lunge. I can't, maybe you can. Got the side step going. When you think this is the time, you can step across and hit the ball. Now, where is your opponent going to be? Your opponent's going to be on the tee. So my job is to move backwards and then I walk forward. Hopefully I've hit the ball deep. If I've hit it short, I'm in trouble. So watch a few movements without me talking. So, what you'll notice is that when I get into the corner, I move backwards. Not to this line and then forwards, no. But I'm not taking the direct line back to the tee. If I take the direct line back to the tee, I'm going to bump into the opponent. So I get here, I hit the ball, I step back, one big solid step, and then I'm walking back to the tee. Shoulders turned, hips facing the front. You often see players like this. As soon as the boat comes in, as soon as the cross court comes in, I'm then struggling to turn around. So ideally, hips facing forward, chest turned, watching your opponent, side step, step, back out, walk to the tee, bang, side step, hit, back out. Now, it's the same even if I'm taking the ball off the back wall and I've got enough space to be here, bang, one step, side step, walking forward. If I can walk forward, I conserve my energy. This is what a beginner will do. Turn, run, hit, overstep, turn, run and hit. Let me do a few real ones. Now, I've exaggerated the noise, but often noisy footwork is not good footwork. Good footwork is quiet footwork. Practice this. It's not something that comes naturally. You'll want to just turn, hit, turn around and run. No. Side step, step, out, back. That's how you move around your opponent. That's how you move efficiently into the back corners. So let's look at the other side. It's exactly the same. Side steps, step, back out, giving my opponent space. Side step, step, back out. Now you'll notice that I'm using my right leg as my leading leg. That's what happens most times. Maybe you could argue, oh, it's better to be here. But I don't always think that that's true. If you use your right leg, or if you use your left leg, I'm okay with that. At the front, I think it makes more of a difference, but at the back, it's not so important. Bang, up and down the wall, step, side step, adjust, bang, walk forward, side step, step, back here. So if I had to say, if the ball is past me, I'm definitely trying to use my right leg. I feel that it's easier to get the ball when it's behind me. If it's more level with me, then I think a left leg, for right-handed people, is a better shot, but it's not so important. What's important is side step, lunge, hit, step back, towards the center, walk forward. Try it, see how you feel. Okay, so let's have a quick look at the side-to-side movement. The side-to-side movement follows the same theme. It's a little side step. See how? This and this. This and this. This is a great exercise. I'm on the tee, boom, and then I'm stepping sideways, right leg for right-handed on this side, hit the ball, step back, back on the tee. If the ball bounces short, I cut it short, I'm here. Step forward, cut it, step here. Same with the other side, of course. But the other side, it's a little bit easier to just take this right leg. I'm not comfortable because of the way my back works, or doesn't work, but you might be, especially with today's very light rackets, big heads, a lot of power. It's much easier to be able to use the incorrect foot than it was back in the day. Now, the next point that I want to raise is how big should the final lunge be? Well, depends where the ball is, obviously, but it really depends on how strong your legs are and your back. And it's not about getting to the ball that's important, it's about getting back. I can lunge here, okay, but I am struggling to keep my balance. I would struggle to come back. So maybe I need to take a slightly longer first step, maybe 2 little side steps, so that I'm not leaning too far forward. Then I can bring this foot back a little bit to help me balance and come back. If, as I was taught, you go here, crikey, you then push back, great. If you've got legs like tree trunks and a back that's strong, that's fantastic, but most of us aren't. So we need to be a bit closer. We need to bring this back leg in a little bit and come back out. Forgive me for heavy breathing, but I don't do much training anymore. I'm going to do a few of these, and you just watch how it works. Same on the other side now. I actually feel stronger on this side. I feel as though I can push back out. My hip on this side is much stronger. Boom. But if you have to bring your leg forward, that's okay. What you don't want to do, though, is you don't want to bring it after you've made contact with the ball. We'll talk about this a little bit later. But this step from here to here is completely wasted. It's time that you shouldn't be using for that. It's energy. 1 step, 2 steps, 2 steps that have been wasted. You will need to practice. Step, little bit back. Now, when you're running at full speed, you've played a drop, your opponent plays a lob. The first thing you're probably going to do is turn around and run. And then when you're running, it's so hard to stop yourself, but you have to try and do that. You have to try to get low, because that's better for your balance, and then you've got to keep your legs strong, bring this forward a little bit, and then back out, ready for the split step. Okay, so let's start talking about the front. I'm a traditionalist. I believe that on the forehand side, at the front, you should be using the opposite leg to the racket, to the arm that you're holding the racket. So if you're left-handed, it would be the right leg. If you're right-handed, it's the left leg. I believe it's the best way, because if you come in a slight arc, which is another point, boom, 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 here, I believe that this leg gives you the most options. It allows you to hit the ball in all different directions. It allows you to judge your distance much better. It allows you to come backwards and then force your opponent to come closer to the wall. If you come in and you go like this, 1, this is a straight line to the ball, and 2, it's using the same leg as the arm. It's a little bit harder to hit straight, although I will totally admit modern rackets give the ability to hit much better shots off what would be considered the incorrect foot. But you come into this position, you hit the ball, and then what you naturally do is you move backwards like this, allowing your opponent in front of you, and look at the difference now. I am now out of position, whereas if you come in the arc, you use your correct leg, traditionally, You hit the ball, wherever you hit it, let's say you play a drop, you come backwards, you now are giving direct access to your opponent, but they are moving closer to the wall. If I come in a straight line, I hit, let's say I hit a drop, I'm going to go like this. If I go like this, I'm going to be considered to be getting in the way of my opponent. Now, coming in this arc takes practice. It does seem as though this is the best option, but with practice, you can come in the arc. You can move in the arc. You can use your opposite leg. Give yourself space. Now, as I've said, modern rackets do allow you to hit the ball with more power from an unorthodox position. But in addition, they also allow, let me just show you, put the racket down here, going to use the end of the racket. If I'm in this position, I'm going to push it. Okay, that's a bit too far. Holding the racket. Okay, that's as far as I could go with holding the racket. Now, I don't move my foot. I swap legs. Now, you can see that I can't reach as far. So, using the same leg on the forehand side means that you can reach further. I recognize that. I do. But I still say, if you can use the opposite leg, if you can come in an arc, you will have better options for hitting the ball and better movement back to the tee to give yourself space. If you go straight with the wrong leg, you're out of position. Now, those two things don't have to be the same. You can come in an arc with the wrong leg. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. Gives you space, you come back, but it just doesn't feel right for me. Maybe it's my back. You can go in a straight line with the opposite leg, but you're still out of position. So the two things put together give you the best option for moving to the front. Now, after you've hit it, boom, you're running backwards, assuming that you've hit the ball into the back corner. You're running backwards with your hips maybe a little bit into the corner, my chest turned so I can see what's happening. I don't want to do this. A lot of beginners do. You shouldn't. It's not about getting back to the tee as quickly as possible and then finding you have to go somewhere else. It's about getting back to the tee as fast as you need to with the option of changing direction at any moment. Forward, hit, come back, oh, forward again, drop, oh, a lob, turn, sidestep, boom. Moving to the front is hard work. Just in these few minutes, you can see that I'm out of breath. So, to summarize, try the arc. Try to use the opposite leg. Let's have a quick look at the other side. Okay, so here we are on the backhand. Now, the arc still applies. In my mind, it still applies. This time, you're using the same leg as your arm. So, of course, if you were left-handed on the other side, it would be the same leg. Getting the arc makes you parallel with the wall, means that if you hit not a perfect straight shot, you are still getting out of the way faster. I find it incredibly difficult to even hit a shot off the opposite leg for my backhand, and that's because as you're coming forward, you're turning. You're not going like this, you're turning. And it means then that this brings the hip around. And it can work the same way on the forehand. If I bring my arm around early, that can bring my shoulders around, making it a little bit easier for using the opposite leg. So back to the backhand side, you're in here. this position, hit the ball, wherever it goes. And that arc is the same. It doesn't matter if you use the correct leg on the backhand, you play a drop, you're here. Because of the way your movement is, you're now giving direct access to the ball. Excuse me. Giving direct access to the ball to your opponent. They've got plenty of space. You're stuck against the wall. You never want to be like this. So if you can, move, drop, come back, direct access. If they go straight, maybe a stroke. If they boast, if they come across, you're ready. The arc makes it easier to come back to the center, giving you more options. So, how do you actually improve your footwork? Well, knowing the theory, knowing that you need to sidestep, move backwards, go backwards, turn your hips, blah, 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 blah. Knowing all of that is great, but you actually need to practice it. And how do you practice it? Ghosting. Now, I've made another video about ghosting, so you should go and watch that if you're interested. But ghosting is moving around the court without the ball, a bit like I've been doing here. Now, you do this either for fitness, because it's pretty good for your fitness, but also for improving your footwork. So, actually getting on court and moving around the court, thinking about your steps, thinking about how you're moving towards the ball, that's how you improve your footwork. Knowing what you should be doing and then doing it. So you start with ghosting. Ghosting is without a ball and generally without another person on court. It means you can focus totally on your footwork without worrying about whether you're going to win the point or any of those things. The next thing that you can do to improve your footwork is strengthen your legs and your core. Now, I've made another video about that. One of the things is sort of like plyometrics, where you're jumping up and down, strengthening squats, any basic work where you're strengthening your legs, but especially your calves. Your calves do a lot of work, so skipping is a wonderful exercise for improving your footwork. Another thing you can do to improve your footwork is watch pros play. Now, it's important that you forget about the ball and you focus on one player and you just watch them when they're playing. You just watch them move. It can be a bit strange at first because you're so accustomed to following the ball with your eyes, but the ball doesn't really teach you much. It's the players that teach you. So watch one player, watch how they move around the court, see how effortless it seems, and see how rarely they actually run. And most of the time they're sidestepping, lunging, coming backwards, and running backwards to get back to the tee. Notice where they actually stand on the tee. Notice how that is fluid. Watching very high levels players, or professionals even better, will help you improve as long as you pay attention to their movement and not the ball and the score. Okay, so one of the things that I don't want you to do that you will see pros do is dive. Now, I'm not even going to attempt to show you how to do that. I can't do that. And I don't think that you should be doing it as well. I think it's the idea of, it looks spectacular, it seems that you're giving your absolute maximum, and you are, but do you win points from it? If you are the kind of person who dives and is successful doing it, great. But if you're not and it's not natural, don't even think about trying to do it. I've actually seen people use mattresses to practice that movement. Don't do that. You don't need to. If you move well, you don't need to do it. Now, there are some professionals who move beautifully and still dive. But there are most of the other professionals who don't do it, and really, please, go dive in. The next thing that I don't want you to do is overhit. Run and turn and then come running back. And I know, you see the professionals do it sometimes. They get up here, bang, and they even touch the wall. One foot against the wall, and then they push off and do it. Don't do this. It's okay for them. They're pros. They spend hours and hours on court. You are not a pro. It's very bad. You will not develop good footwork. And I know that there's all this argument, well, if they do it, why can't I do it? Okay then, well then you go and spend 5 hours every day training for the next 3 or 4 years. Then you can overrun. But if you're an amateur, a competitive club player, it's generally a very bad thing. Don't overrun. It wastes your time. You get to the ball, you hit it, all of these extra steps. Yes, you got to the ball faster. And if you hit a great shot, fine. But in general, I do not recommend overrunning the ball. No. Okay, so to summarize, the split step is so important. That little jump just before your opponent hits the wall, pay super attention to when you do it. Too early and you lose the benefit, too late, you're in the air. When you move into the corners, sidestep to allow you some adjustment and then take a small lunge and then move back a little bit towards the center line, but not completely, to give your opponent enough time and space, more importantly, to get to the back corners. When moving to the side, don't take a huge lunge unless you have incredibly strong legs, because then you'll only bring your other leg forward and then it'll take you longer. You can bring your back leg forward, but just a little bit. When moving to the front, ideally move in an arc, because that will give you the most amount of space to hit the ball. Don't worry about whether you use your left leg or your right leg on the forehand side. I'm pointing to this corner because I'm right-handed. If you're left-handed, obviously it's the other corner. You can make adjustments. On the backhand side, I find it incredibly difficult to use the incorrect leg and recommend that you focus really hard on trying to do that properly. Once you've hit the ball at the front, make sure that you're watching it and you're moving backwards with your hips, not straight because that would be awkward, but able to turn. Don't turn and run. Do some ghosting to actually get your legs stronger. Do some exercises, skipping, some squats, some lunges to get your legs and your core stronger, and that will help your footwork. Now, it's possible that I've forgotten something, so in which case, don't hesitate to ask questions in the comments. And of course, if you have any doubts or questions, ask those in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer them. And as always, do something every single day to improve your squash. See ya.